Right, we'll make a start. Listen, guys, I am being serious, like anything you want to know. I can talk for Britain. You might not get it. I've already said this to the group. Spoke to a little group this morning. I'm a twice published international best-selling author. There's something I thought I'd never say. My English literature teacher, I'll be polite, said I was a waste of space. I'd never met nothing of myself. So there you go. My first book, Strangeways Prison Officer, come out in 2018. I worked on that book for 18 months. I was suffering from PTSD. Does anyone know what PTSD is? Yes, please.
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah. Has anyone any idea how that manifests itself? Okay, all of you here. Let's just suppose that some of you have been in a car accident. Yeah, might have been in a car accident. You were frightened for a couple of weeks after, or a couple of months. You've had nightmares. That's, to all intents and purposes, is PTSD. Might just go away with time, yeah. Squaddies, like your man, who've been in, you know, conflict, in wars and that, maybe seen your best mates die or something like that, can suffer for years. It's a thought process, PTSD. So a lot of things in the prison service and forensic units. A lot of it was deeply disturbing. I'll try not to make this too graphic, but you know, if we go to the one extremes, I've seen people set the cells on fire, cut the cells to the bone. Does everyone know what I mean when I say cut yourself to the bone? I'm on about cutting, you know, no thought, bam, straight through, yeah? Dirty protest. Does anyone know what a dirty protest is? Does anyone want to know what a dirty protest is? Yeah. Okay, that's when a prisoner uses their own excrement. We all know what that is. And they might put it on the walls of the cell or around the door. Yeah? Or on themselves. So as a prison officer then, we have certain procedures, policies to follow. It makes it difficult to deal with people. You know, again, without being too graphic, you go to the toilet yourself, might not be pleasant. Well, that's the lads. All the ladies, it'll be pleasant, obviously. That's your own smell. Now, you imagine somebody else's. So when I worked in the private sector, we had a lad called Tommy. He was a Scouse lad from Liverpool. In the 80s and 90s, he was a well-known gangster. Very violent, extremely dangerous, very manipulative and scary. Yeah? So he's down in the segregation unit, that's solitary confinement. 23-hour bang up. So if you were placed in solitary, back in the day, you didn't have TVs, you do have now, and I'll tell you my thoughts on that later. You would, if you were lucky, get out for a shower, maybe come out for your meals, you would get an hour's exercise, and that was it. Yeah? Like I said, back in the day, no TV, no books, no newspapers. We're social animals, us, it's not good. People used to go crazy. People were kept down there for months and years. This lad, Tommy, very influential. We had 6 young offenders. That is 18 to 21-year-olds who we persuaded to want a dirty protest. So there are 7 cells in this sort of area here. People covered in their own excrement, the walls covered in it. You know, not nice, not pleasant. I used to walk off that unit every day when I finished my shift. I had a bag, took all my clothes off down to my boxers, shorts and t-shirts. Disgusting. That's one extreme. Mentally unwell. Who thinks, yeah, that people who are mentally unwell or have a mental illness should be in prison? Does anybody think that? Would you think if somebody went to court who had schizophrenia or paranoia, or we talk about anxiety and depression, yeah, they're extremes, they are debilitating illnesses. So does anybody think that somebody with those illnesses in court maybe get weeded out and sent to an appropriate place like a mental hospital? No? If you don't, I'll tell you how The system sees people like that, yeah? When they're in prison, you're safe, the public's about keeping the public safe. When they're behind a door, you're safe, the public is safe. It don't matter about their well-being. So somebody who's mentally unwell, who's in prison, yeah, then joins a queue to go to a mental hospital. At worst, there's a lad called Paul, that's his real name. He was a drug addict, didn't make him a bad person, a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of people in prison. There's no figures for this, I would say probably well over 50%, maybe 70, maybe more, have suffered childhood trauma, whether that's physical or sexual abuse. Paul was one of them. Yeah, a lot of addicts I met, I used to be judgmental. You've all heard the term smackhead, yeah? Someone who's on heroin and the like. A lot of people I met who addict stuff, crack and the like. Childhood trauma. So Paul came into prison. He'd done a few prison sentences, he'd done more time in mental hospitals, however, he came to prison, yeah? So he was with us 2 months, clearly unwell. We could have a conversation like I'm talking to you. He was lucid. Do you all know what that means? Yeah, he was here, he was functioning. You could talk to him, you'd have a proper conversation, play pool with him, yeah? He was a nice lad. Like I said, the crimes they come in for, usually these sort of people in the community, you know, maybe in a supermarket, kicking off, getting anxiety, normal people are scared, police come, they don't understand, he gets arrested, public disorder. So he'd been with us 2 months, I liked him, he was a likeable lad, I liked a lot of people met in prison, yeah? There were a lot of staff I didn't like, a lot of bullies, but there were more good people. So Paul comes in front of the psychiatrist, we had a locum. The prison healthcare had its own psychiatrist. They weren't there all the time, so a locum come in. So this is some guy at the weekend getting, you know, probably $1,000 for the weekend. You all want to do that now, don't you? Yeah? And he come in, and Paul's in front of him with me, supervising, and my manager who was a nurse. So the psychiatrist said, I've had a look at your meds, and I'm going to change your medication. So, Paul gave him all the reasons why not. He gave him a 15-year history of his medication, because people who are mentally unwell on meds know. Yeah, so he gave him a history. The psychiatrist says, no, I'm still going to change the meds. So Paul says, it's a true story this, if you change my meds, I'll stop taking them. So the psychiatrist says, right, I'm changing them now. So I took him back to his cell. This is a guy, nice guy, friendly, good conversation, playing pool. He went from 10 days, very quickly this, yeah, to not eating and drinking. The last 4 days, even in his cell naked. Again, trying not to be too graphic. He was harming himself. When I say harming himself, I don't mean cutting or whatever. You know, banging his head off walls, pulling at himself. He was distressed. Yeah? He ended up the last 2 days. We talked about dirty protest. He come under them conditions, but this weren't willful. Eating his own excrement. Right? He was really, really unwell. There's nothing you can do. You can't force medication on people in prison. Can't do it. So he got an emergency section and he went to hospital. People in prison who are mentally unwell come to prison, they think they're well, they stop taking the meds. 10 days that was. You know, I remember that lad. That was about 2011, 2012. I remember seeing him. I remember when he went to hospital. I remember the 10 days. I remember the psychiatrist saying that. You know, that's how the PTSD comes together. But there's lots of incidents like that. There's absolutely hundreds. Prison isn't a place for people who are mentally unwell. It's not. But they end up in prison, and then they're in a queue because there might be people in the community who need that place. And because they're locked behind the door, away from you guys, and you're safe, that's how it is. So, you get a lot of extremes in prison. We come to the abuse. A second book that come out March this year. I'm not here to sell books, by the way. It's just important. Yeah, you're laughing, aren't you? The second book is about lads and one I haven't met. So I had this idea for me to change people's perception of prison, because everyone thinks everyone's bad. So I got some lads, and some of them were bad in prison. Bullies, violent, assaultative. I got them together, I spoke to them, I told them my idea about a book, and they all agreed. There's a lot of childhood trauma and abuse. People were very frank. And for me, it comes out in paperback in January, people are seeing what the book's about, yeah? People, the comments on Amazon, people who've messaged me who read my first book, read the second book, are very different, seeing things in a different light. 8% of people in prison have got personality disorders. Does anyone know what personality disorder is? Some of you guys will have personality disorders. They might manifest themselves in little bits. At worst, you won't be able to function without medication. You're never going to be cured. Borderline personality disorder. Does anybody know what that is? Right, so I've met a lot of lasses. One lad, a lot of lasses with that. We had a prison governor, Holly, borderline personality disorder. I'll tell you what it's about that. And you know, people judge these people. It's about trauma, being abandoned as a kid, something like that, that's all, and it triggers people. Triggers them, you know, as young as 10, in the teens. Holly was a prison governor. Yeah, I respected her, she cared about people. That's what you have to be a good prison manager. Just have to care about people, yeah? She cared about people. She said she had two heads. She had the prison governor head, yeah, which wasn't real, according to her. And she had a borderline personality disorder, which means she struggles with relationships. Yeah, you might judge people, especially lasses sleeping with loads of people. Yeah, they crave affection. Very cliche, crave affection and other things. That's Holly. For me, the prison governor, the caring person, was the real one. The borderline personality disorder was another one. She's on good medication now. She has a psychiatrist. Yeah, she held down a job up until a couple of years ago. Now she's in a bad place. These people, a lot function. There'll be amongst us, prison officers, yeah, they struggle daily. And once there's a break or they have an episode or something like that, then the life sort of goes to wrap. Now Holly is lucky to be here. She's made quite a few good attempts on her life. A lot of people with personality disorders end up in prison, surprisingly enough. It's not a good place to be. A lot of the lads I interviewed, you know, Lee grew up, his earliest childhood memories. What's the youngest any of you can remember anything from? And your childhood is a lot nearer than mine, so youngest memories, maybe 3 years old. That's fair. Anyone else? Anyone younger than that? Yeah? Say that again? No? Lee, 3, 4 years old, bags of money and shotguns. Yeah? Hiding under his dad's bed, shotgun. Pistol in drawer, money everywhere, loads of money. His dad were an infamous bank robber. So, any guesses what Lee became? Did somebody say bank robber? Bank manager. It's like bank robber, isn't it? But not the same. Ask me a question. Anything. Come on, guys.
Do you want me to ask mine?
Yeah.
What's the worst thing you found up someone's arse when you were sitting?
The worst thing
You found up someone's arse.
found up.
Yeah.
Right, let me explain about people. No, that's a good question. People having things up the back passage. Yeah, as a prison officer, we do strip search people. Strangeways, high security prison, everyone's strip search. You can't go where the sun don't shine, yeah? That is a medical procedure. We've already discussed this. In extreme circumstances, you can ask someone to squat. Obviously, if you squat, It's not bad for 60, is it? Something upstairs, there's a chance it'll fall out. Mobile phones, we had one lad had 3 mobile phones up his backside. We know that because he had an x-ray, yeah? Frank in the book, Frank, because he taught Frank, he's a lad who lived near me in Little Oak, Manchester, he lived 100 metres away, yeah? Known him for 20 years. We got on really well. Knew where I lived, everyone knew where I lived. He knew which was my car. I felt safe in the knowledge he knew where I lived, because he was an influential person. We had a conversation for the book, so we called him Frank. We talked, 2 guys in Costa, in Manchester, talking about putting things up your backside, yeah? Frankly, he says, once you've been in, Mr. S, you know, it's done. You all do it. Phones are the main thing. Phones are a valuable commodity. They allow you to intimidate people. They allow you to continue your business. And in some cases, and for me, if this was the only way contacting family, then everyone would have a mobile for me. There's a lot of serious people in prison as well. So, without being too graphic, phones, like I said, 3 phones. Incidentally, we had a lad on healthcare come in with chest pains, went to hospital, so they x-rayed him, yeah? And he'd had a mobile phone up his backside, but he was no longer up his backside, it had travelled through his intestines. It was somewhere up here, and he had to have that surgically removed, yeah? The worst thing, he's dead now, this lad, called him John. We know it was up there again because he was x-rayed in hospital. He had a 6-inch shard of glass with bedding wrapped around the handle. It was a weapon, it was very dangerous. And he had that where the sun don't shine, yeah? That lad was HIV positive and he weaponized bodily fluids. Yeah? Remember going on a bed watch? A bed watch is where prisoners go out to hospital, yeah? So, depending on the risk to the public, possibly 2 officer or 3 officer, yeah? So, when I turned up, there's me and a lass in his uniform. There's 12 staff in full riot gear. Yeah, riot gear, overalls, big boots, belts, got the buttons on, gloves, protection, and a helmet. And this guy, John, is sat up in bed, double cuffed. Decency is a big thing, yeah? You always try and make things decent. In hospital, they have what they call a closet chain, closet being a toilet. So it's a cuff with a long chain. So if you want to go to the toilet, I can stand at the door, you can go in there with some privacy. Normally, people on bed watches in bed have a closet chain. This lad was double cuffed. So they have what they call chub cuffs, they are thick. You are not getting out of them, yeah? Cuffed like that. In front of him, then there's another cuff there to an officer like myself, yeah? 12 officers in riot gear, he's covered in claret, this lad, blood and excrement. This is on a ward with screens round in hospital. So you imagine your loved one or whatever is on that ward. There's a prisoner and 12 staff in full riot gear. So I turns up, the senior officer, the guy in charge, says, "You're right, Sam, thanks for coming, we'll get off." So he's covered in claret, covered in excrement, there's 3 of us. It kicked off in the night, they decided they were going home, so there's 12 staff in full riot gear and there's 3 of us in normal uniform. Can anyone guess what I said to him? Politely. Told him it weren't happening, yeah? We had a big row, and I said there was no way, as I sit in, handcuffed someone covered in their own excrement and blood with weaponized blood products. Yeah? We decided to wait till the doctor had come. The doctor had come, this lad had been in x-ray, like I said, shard of glass where the sun don't shine. He also had another shard of glass inserted in his thigh. Yeah? He had an open wound. He used to insert in serious self-harmers without being, yeah? Insert things. When I worked with the women, they would insert things. Yeah? They would get infected, they'd go to hospital, have it removed, they put some something else in there. This guy had a piece of glass next to his femoral artery. Do you know how serious that is? Femoral artery, you cut it, 30 seconds, you're dead. Yeah? He was nasty and dangerous. He's dead now. He actually died in prison. He actually bled to death. Yeah? So, back to your question, naughty. While we're on the subject of putting things where the sun don't shine, I've just chatted to some other guys before I come in here. A lot of people take drugs into prison. Yeah? Spice, which has destroyed the prison service, it is a really evil drug. Long-term heroin addicts, off their heads on spice, 40 times stronger than heroin. People can go in with a backside full of spice and make 60 grand in 3 months. Easily. £60,000, 3 months in prison. People now, will get arrested on a petty charge. I'll tell you something else to take in prison now as well. Used to be able to smoke in prison, now a general ban. So everyone has vapes. Vapes are amazing. You make phone chargers out of them, tattoo guns, because prisoners are really clever. You get tattooists in prison. And tobacco. Does everyone know what a Rizzler is?
Yeah.
How do you know? Who said that? I'm kidding. Right, a Rizzler in prison is a quid. One Rizzler is a quid. Yeah? A lighter or a box of matches, I have to pay a ton, 100 quid, seriously. Tobacco now, lemonade bottle or whatever, a cap, packed, that is a unit measure. Goes for about a ton. Might be a bit more, might be a bit less. Thank you for your question. Next question. Come on guys, anything you want to ask? You want to learn about this? Yes please.
Who's the worst prisoner you've ever met?
Worst prisoner, alright, and I'll give you a few examples. Very difficult to tie down to one, because there are some bad people. I will tell you about one. I'm not going to use his real name, I'll tell you for why. He's probably going to get out at some point. He is a scary guy. So he's a big lad, powerful lad. Some of the gyms in prison are unreal. Some of the long-termers that are in there, walk on any bodybuilding stage. This guy was scary because not only did he have the physical presence, he was dangerous. He got shot on the out. Yeah? Somebody walked up to him, shot him with a revolver in the chest. Blew a big piece of his back out. Got taken to hospital. When he come round, he discharged himself from hospital. Scary lad. I got called into prison one day. As part of my prison officer training, I did tornado training, riot training. Very similar to the army. You have a mock prison as near as you can get. You all get kitted up, you run around like idiots for 2 weeks, taking down barricades, people throwing things at you. And I mean throwing things at you. Big blocks of wood and the like. It's got to be real. Come away, loads of bruises, injuries. The blocks of wood are now tennis balls, sadly. It was very realistic, yeah? So, tornado training, I was part of that. We were asked to volunteer to go in and deal with this big lad. We went in, middle of the night, there was a manager, he'd been asleep for 3 hours, decided we need to go in this cell, because he got something up, a light, and he was threatening to set the cell on fire. We went in, that's 12 staff against 1. Yeah? That's 12 staff. 2 of us had brushes. The guy who was in charge didn't like me. So he said, Sam, you take the brush in, clean the cell. We'll deal with them, you clear the cell. So, okay, fair dues. I'm getting paid same as them. I went in, after about 10 seconds of sweeping the floor, I was on him as well. 12 staff on him, and he's starting to get up. I'm on his head with another lad, he looked up at us. You can imagine the words. He says, you dirty screw whatevers. I'll tell you what a screw is later. At this point, everyone decided it weren't a good place. So, have you ever been anywhere, running away, scared, with your mates, you're pushing past your mates, you want to get out first or whatever? You know that situation, adrenaline fight or flight. Well, adrenaline's kicked in and everyone's off. So everyone leaves the cell. Obviously I didn't leave the cell. Me and 4 others and a 5th guy. Got hold of this 5th guy. Yeah? He had a big thick belt in Tornado. We got hold of the belt and we ragged him back in the cell. His arms and legs touch, I swear. Ragged him back in and he's got hold of him. This lad was that powerful. Definitely break limbs. So 4 of us wrestled him off him, chucked this guy out of the cell, and then we're in a fight, 4 of us. I mean a proper fight now. He's a big lad, he stood up, and it's one of them. Like I said, fight or flight, so we're fighting. He slipped down, we were on him, we're out of the cell. What I expected when I left the cell, because 12 of us went in, was everyone to be outside the cell. They'd all gone then. Some of them had taken all the kit off. They didn't want to know. He was a scary lad in. Very dangerous. It weren't just his physicality, it's that one. Some of the most scary people I've ever met. I've never harmed anyone in prison because they've been managed. We had a lad called, again, John. A lot of Johns, mad Johns in there. He broke an officer's arm. He was in a cell. The officer went to open the door, slammed it, arm, bad snap. We had him on healthcare. Every day, polite. He was clean, clearly not right. And he went to Rampton High Security Hospital, yeah? He weren't right. Every day, you're right, Mr. Samworth? Yeah. Can I have a shower? Yeah. So he was on a 3-officer unlock. An unlock protocol means that that person only comes out with a certain amount of staff with no other prisoners around. And I used to make sure there were no nursing staff. You don't want to be walking down the landing with somebody dangerous, nurse walking the other way, cops for one. So this is how it went. You want your shower, John? Yeah. Open the door. There you go. After you, Mr. Samworth? No. After you, John, every day. I always used to, if I was there, I'd open the door. Okay? There was a lad I worked with, knew it all. First day, he's run out of the office to open his door. He went to open his door like that. As he come out, he had a bladed weapon. It weren't me. He knew I were on shift. Dragged him back out of the way. John walked back in the cell. He would have striked him. Very dangerous. Never injured anyone on there. Ever cautious. We used to have on the healthcare every day a briefing in the morning and the afternoon. Yeah. Before I worked on there, I didn't know what it was about. Mental hospitals, if any of you ever work, and it's amazingly rewarding working with people who are mentally unwell. It's very dangerous as well. You have a briefing. So when I work with the lasses in forensic units, yeah, there was a charge nurse, a lovely lady, about 60 years old, said to me, Sam, read a few files. Something I said. Read a few files, yeah? Did all trauma, usually male, abused or whatever. It was an amazing place to work, but very, very dangerous. You had the briefing because these people were prolific self-harmers, done well to fall asleep in. Prolific self-harmers, and a lot of traditional mental health problems like schizophrenia and that. Yeah? There is a job role, nurse support worker, or something similar, working in forensic units. If you ever get the opportunity, or you fancy doing something like that, go and do it. Very dangerous, very rewarding. Thank you for your question. Next question. Yes. I'll come back to you after me. No, go on.
What's one of the most vicious prisons you've ever been?
The vicious?
Yeah. What's one of the most deadliest prisons you've ever been?
Right, so you see programs, world's most dangerous prison, you know, it's almost like prisons are always vying for the best. Strangeways got a reputation because of riots. All prisons have good points and bad points. Now, postcode lottery. Some have got experience, some haven't. If you go into prison, hopefully none of you ever will, if you go into prison, you know, you don't borrow anything. Best advice, don't borrow anything. You treat people and speak to people how you want to be spoke to and treated sent or treated yourself, you will never have no problems. Yeah? If any of you want to be prison staff, in any form or way. I always tell people, be yourself, yeah, and be a bit humble. That's a good trait to have. So, probably Belmarsh has got a bad reputation because it's got some of the worst terrorism, people in for acts of terror and the stuff like that. But all prisons can have their moments. Depends on experience now, and they're interlocked. You, young man.
Who were some prison officers you didn't particularly like and for what reason?
Okay. Historically, the prison service was quite brutal. I have met officers who worked in the 70s and 80s. One particular guy, very honest. He started Strangeways in 1975, right? The POA, Prison Officers Association, is a prison union. So a guy from the union made friends with him. You know, it's like college. First day on your course, you make friends with someone, you hook up with them, whatever. So this lad invited him to a meeting. Yeah, so he went to a meeting, and this meeting was the National Front. Does anyone know what the National Front was? Too young. In the 70s, the National Front was a racist organisation. Literally, it was like people doing their own ethnic cleansing. Yeah, it was quite prominent. There was a lad I went to school with who had a swastika on his head. I know a lot of mates who grew up as skinheads. Skinheads used to be like Scar and Blues, the Boots, the skinheads. They weren't violent. National Front sort of adopted that look. So he started at prison. The union man is in the National Front. Yeah? So it's a racist organisation. People would use racist words and language towards prisoners. Like I said, people would get beatings. Not everyone in prison was bad or gave out beatings. This guy I'm talking about, another John, believe it or believe it not, yeah, he fought the system, that guy. You know, he would stand up for people. He was there 10 years. He would eventually leave because he got beaten from the staff. Me, there was one last, surprisingly enough. Her sexuality, she was a lesbian, and she used that. In prison, you used to have, I'm not using the phrase, but it's not right. If me and you have an argument, yeah, just a disagreement, you're obviously the last time alive. If you go to a governor, yeah, maybe upset, tears or whatever, what used to happen is the governor comes to me and I'd be in trouble. Or I would get investigated. He wouldn't ask me what our disagreement was about. This lass, very much, she would talk to people in a bad way. She would instigate beatings. You know, maybe go in a cell. Some lad, like I've already told you, most lads won't touch a lass. I was brought up like that, me. Yeah, a prisoner who beat a female officer is going to get beaten himself. That's how it used to be. She would cause incidents. The worst incident, and I absolutely hate a strong word, on her wing they had a lad. He was unwell. He was in for 2 weeks, that's all. She was on the induction wing. He weren't well, he wasn't eating. In prison, someone who's not eating, after 3 days, it's called a food refusal. You have to start paperwork. This lad weren't eating because he was unwell. He was only in prison 2 weeks. She wanted him off the wing because they had to do some paperwork and it was troublesome. I went up with my manager, we saw him, he said he was happy there. You can't force healthcare on people. You know, I couldn't force any of you now, if you're unwell, to go to hospital, can't do that. And it's same in prison. About 2 hours later, yeah, my manager says, come with me, this lad's in a cell on healthcare. So the guy who's not well, who's not eating, he's naked. It took 2 days for him to speak to us. All his clothes were in a pile outside. So we went and had a look at the cameras, because all prisoners are cameraed up now. So this lass instigated a removal. She'd gone in his cell, dragged him off. This is what he said, and I do believe him. Dragged him off the bed, and with some lads, they had restrained him and brought him to healthcare. So that's someone who's not well. Yeah? As she went off the landing, this is what I call no percentage, yeah? This lad was old, frail, unwell. As she went off the landing with an officer twice my size, another bully, they high-fived, you know, great job. There was a lot of bullies, yeah? I never stood for that, a lot of officers don't. There's way more good stuff than bullies. The problem is, the only people who join the prison service now are young people like you, yeah? So if I'm in charge and I'm a bully and I've got 5 of you following me around, it's like learned behaviour. If I go in a cell because someone's been on the belt, and give him a punch and come out, and you see that, people start thinking that's the norm. I've met prisoners who say any prison officer who sees something like that and don't report it is as bad as them people. Yeah. The trouble is, it's a difficult environment. It's a really difficult environment. I challenged someone who's a bully. I had 6 months where no one spoke to me. I was threatened. The staff who've had the car set on fire, who've bubbled other staff. But the vast majority of people in there are decent people. Thank you for your question. Next.
I've got a question. The trialling mobile phones in prisons aren't in prisons. Do you agree with that?
There's most phones in cells now, right? The problem with the mobile phone is they'll get around something, and like I said, some bad people in there, witness intimidation, and they could run the business. Yeah. The phones in cell are a good idea because they're not getting out anymore. Phones used to be on the landing. The problem is, private run company, you know, you can get a mobile phone contract now for 20 quid, unlimited. Yeah. Phone calls in prison, just on a standard line, it's about 60p a minute. If you're getting £20 a month, you know, you've got your mum's a phone, your missus, or whatever, you know, it's just a rip-off. It's just a company making a lot of money out of people. So that's ticked a box for the prison service, because everyone's got phones in cell. But also, I only thought about this the other day, I have a friend who works in prison who has to speak to prisoners. Yeah? I can phone from an office, I can phone a cell and speak to a prisoner. You're social animals. Like he said, I was sat in an office on phone calls all day with prisoners. He started getting off his ass, you know, and going on wings and speaking to him. He got reprimanded for that. So he ended up leaving the job. If it was for family contact, all for that, you know, it's a massive part of it. Come on, guys.
Go on, you go first. I was going to say there's no security checks for staff.
Right, security checks for staff, good question. So Strangeways, where I work, was a high security prison, yeah. So when I used to go in, all your metal, shoes off, put them in a tray, they go through an x-ray. I used to walk through portal, not airport style, just a metal detector, then be rubbed down to the side and wandered down, yeah. When I was in the private sector, I got searched 3 times in 3 years, that's all. Depending on the security and the level of the prison, some prisons you walk straight in. The problem is now, there's a lot of young people, and that's nothing against young people. Most of the people who get in touch with me about joining the prison service are young. They're very easily influenced, not a life experience, not a lot of life experience and the like. For me, there's some prisons that have got portal type security. If any of you guys want to fly abroad, how many of you kick off with security? You're not going to, are you? If you want to go to Spain on holiday, you walk through a portal. Prisons are gotten for prisoners. For me, it should be for me, staff, anyone who goes in prison, prisoners' families, officers, civilians, and everyone else. Because quite definitely, staff corruption has gone through the roof.
Yeah, it's a quick one. We've got 3 types of security: physical, procedural, dynamic.
Yeah.
I've heard you before, but how important do you think dynamic security is? Has it ever got you out of bother gathering these relationships with prisoners? And do you think it's, with, you know, everyone getting a bit more political?
Yeah, okay, so you can all work out what physical security is in prison: gates, bars, dogs, razor wire, procedural procedures, rules and regs, yeah? Dynamic security, staff-prisoner relationships, the most important thing, yeah? So I was in prison service. Over a period of time, People get to know you, can't blag them. It's like being here now, you know, or I have a YouTube channel or a book about my life. If you read that, you'll know me inside out. You know, I can't have 300 odd videos on YouTube and blag people that I'm a nice person or I care. And it's like that in prison. You know, when I was on K-Wing, incidentally, here's a question for you. So, at night, that's the evening duty, when prisoners used to be out at night. K-Wing, we had 200 prisoners, yeah? 3 landings, 200 prisoners. How many people, prison officers, do you think were on the landing? I'll ask you first, young lady. Go on then. 300, yeah, both of you. Hazard a guess. 200 prisoners, how many officers on the landing? 4? Wow. Not many. Who thinks it'd be more than that? How many?
20?
Yeah, 20. That's what you think, wouldn't it? It's actually 6. So they're not good odds then, are they? However, you know, it was well managed and it was a safe place for the dynamic security because every prisoner on K-Wing, I knew everyone. I knew what cell they were in. I knew who the bullies were. I knew them that were into drugs. I knew the lads that could be trusted and everything else. Dynamic security, staff-prisoner relationships. Similar sort of thing you have in college, you know. You get to know your lecturers. You call your lecturers now, or what's the technical term for someone like yourself?
Heroes.
Heroes? It was the most important thing. What's happened to prisons since about 2015 is prisons locked up. Like it used to be, 23 hours a day, yeah? So there's no relationships. If you were working with me and you're an arse, you've got F off on his hands, because some staff are like that. Prisoner come up and ask something, F off. Yeah? You see me, Mr. Samworth, they'd ignore him and come to me. You get to know you. Somebody new on the wing, yeah, big lad, fancying a pop at me, don't like me. Somebody else, no, it's alright, Mr. Samworth, he'll sort your things out. Staff prisoner relationships made it safe. There's no relationships now, because they're banged up all day. Staff turnover, very dangerous. Lasses now, young ladies are getting knocked out and limbs broken in prison. Yeah? So anybody who's thinking now, I won't recommend it as a job. I have never, ever, ever told anyone not to go for a job. A lot of young people, I want to share that joke in a minute, alright? It's alright, carry on laughing. Never sort of said to anyone or tried to put them off or whatever. They need staff at the end of the day. It's a good place to learn your trade, relationships and things like that. What are you guys wanting to go into? Have you got any ambitions now? Are you just doing the course and then see who comes along, whichever's the best paid job? Anyone want to be a copper? Yeah, right. Anyone want to be a prison officer? Yeah, there you go then. Yeah, don't let it put you off. Yeah, be yourselves. Anybody else? Young man up there, yeah, you, Will I am. You got a question, mate?
But I've missed a lot of it, I've just come in now. I just wanted to know about one of your most challenging situations. You might have already covered it, a conflict situation. You might have had
Conflict situations, right, conflict resolution. Let me tell about lasses. This is what lasses are better than lads are, yeah? Me, vast majority of the time in prison, very calm, yeah? If me and you are having a row, the moment you start shouting at me and I'm talking nice, I used to stay like that. But at some point you lose it. What lasses are very good at is there'll be somebody here, yay big, me, lad here, we're going at it. What do you mean like that? Where's the Samworth for? Boom, distraction. Conflict resolution, very good at it. With young offenders, young people, juveniles 16 to 18, young offenders 18 to 21, there was a lot of female staff. Like the mother figure. Sounds very cliched that, but they were very good with prisoners. The young lads full of testosterone wanting to fight all the time. Riot situations, right, I've been in a couple of situations that didn't turn into riots, could have been riots. Yeah? Adrenaline. When I was younger, I used to play rugby, I was sick before I played rugby every week. I used to play rugby hard and that adrenaline. struggled to cope with it. We've already talked about fight or flight. You know, someone's in front of you, wanting to take your mobile phone off you, you're either having it or you're off. There's a third one someone mentioned to me not long ago, and it's right. You freeze. Some people freeze. Yeah? So we had a riot situation on E-Wing. 70 prisoners. I would say 20 were up for it. Pull balls, pull cues. Here, there, here, where here. There's 10 lads here. Prison officers facing them. Behind me, right back at the wall, there's another 30 staff. They were going. Yeah? They were off. If it kicked off, that door were open and they'd gone off the wing. Yeah? Nothing against them people. Didn't have my physicality or whatever. You know, it's a very difficult, they're not normal situations. You know, riot situations. They are terrifying. If someone was to ask me, have ever been scared in prison? Too many times. Yeah? Have ever cried? Yeah, I have. Come across things that made me cry. Incredibly sad things. I'll tell you a story now about a lad. This is a true story. I don't know where he is now. He's called Anton. 21, coming to prison, ended up on healthcare. He was immature, to say the least. He'd been mistaken for a gang member. Stop and search, predominantly black in Manchester. Pretty much everyone I come across, this is quite a funny story, this. I'm going to remind you to come back to Anton. On K-Wing, at one bit, we had 200 prisoners, 36 were gang affiliated, 2 gangs. Now that, you imagine that, yeah? Lads here, shooting each other on route, no message. It was very tense. It was one white lad who was in another gang, he was on his own. And every day when he come out, he'd be stood against the wall, like this. Yeah? We used to take piss out of him, because it was scary, he was on his own. So Anton, not mistaken, he was a black lad, fought a gang member. 5 lads beat him up, smashed his jaw with a baseball bat, so he come into prison, he was brain damaged. Yeah? Should have gone into a brain injury unit, he come in prison. What he'd done, the charge he was on, he got into bed with his best mate's girlfriend. There was an alleged rape, we don't know where that happened, but what happens with people with brain injuries, they become disinhibited. They don't know right from wrong, yeah? And it was very simple. He went on a normal wing and was telling everyone he was in for rape. She's really dangerous in prison, you're going to get filled in. So he landed with us, he's got a brain injury. Over a period of a couple of months, he became unmanageable. I went off for a week, came back, he was on an unlock I've already told you about. So he only come out on his own. He ended up in a situation where he flooded his cell, he had no TV, he was drinking water out of the toilet was full of, you could guess what, and he was eating a Bible and a Quran. So as I'm stood talking to him, he's there, big gobs full of paper, water. Yeah, he's brain damaged, this lad. Moments looking at him, it was incredibly sad. He went to a brain injury clinic a couple of days later. Brain injury clinics they don't have prison officers, they're not trained to restrain people, they look after people who are unwell. He was violent, and he put a couple of staff in hospital not long after he'd arrived. But incredibly sad, I remember it, I remember looking at him eating that, you can't imagine it. It's awful. So it's a scary place. And, you know, most of the things I've talked about here are quite disturbing and bad. However, I tend to remember them. I had lots of good days, lots of laughs, proper laughs, a good laugh. Laughs with prisoners, laughs with staff. You know, I did enjoy the job. It changed for me in 2015. No dynamic security, locking prisoners up, no interactions. You know, if I went on a wing and didn't know, the staff ignored me and just got themselves bruised or whatever, I go and talk to prisoners, mate. Yeah? Interesting people. When that went, for me, the job went. Got injured September 4th, 2015. Never went back. Any questions? Right, TVs. I think prisons should have TVs. People kick off about the PlayStations and that. In order to get a PlayStation in prison, you've got to be incredibly well behaved. They have what they call regime monitoring. When you go into prison, you are standard regime prisoner. Get a bed, get a TV, you get out, or you used to get out, etc. If you misbehave, you go on basic regime, which is that no TV, no nothing. And if you're a sentenced prisoner, you're in prison tracksuits. They used to hate it. If you imagine all you guys fashion conscious, a big baggy tracksuit, one size fits all, corned beef colour, they hated them. The TVs and the PlayStations, right? Prison is boring. People who have PlayStations weren't on them all day. You might be on them Saturday night, Sunday night. Most of the time, you want to be out talking to other people or whatever. The TVs in solitary, I do believe it should have usually behind a screen, so people can't smash them and hurt themselves. It is definitely not an holiday camp in prison. The hardest thing, you imagine, right, you've got a girlfriend and a mum you love, yeah? A couple of kids. As a sentenced prisoner, you get 4 hours a month visits. So, you know, you choose, you either see your missus for 4 hours and the kids, or you see your mum, or you split it. Yeah? It's a loss of liberties. Everything you do, I tell you when I can do it. Now, I always say this to kids. Family bathroom, standard family bathroom, across the wall, yeah? Standard semi-detached. Take your phone, I'll let you take your phone. You don't have to put it where the sun don't shine, you can take it with you in your hand. Go in your family bathroom for 23 hours. Yeah? Get your quilting, baths, you're nice and comfy. Go in there for 23 hours, yeah? And then tell me how easy that is. It's not easy, it's not a good place. Rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is what you get from physios when you've injured your shoulder playing rugby. Yeah? We don't rehabilitate people, don't give them the tools to survive, don't counsel anyone, nobody gets any therapy. Yeah? Reoffending rates now are somewhere around 80%, which means people who go to prison and come out, 80% chance of going back. Any more questions?
During the searches, why can't women squat but men can't?
Okay, so as a female officer, right, when it comes to strip searching, male officers strip male prisoners. I have strip searched a male prisoner with a female officer who has just been there for me, so out of eyesight but watching me because you're open to allegations. If I strip someone on my own, I'm open to allegations. Squatting. Squatting now is literally, I can do another. Squat, yeah? In the hope that something falls out if you know it's plugged there. Women's prisons are very different. I don't honestly know, but it can't be done. We have had, or they have had in the female estate, female prisoners who refuse to strip search taken into police custody to be stripped. Yeah? But it's just about decency. It's okay to get a guy to squat, but not a lass. For me, you know, nobody'd squat. I've seen officers try and get people to squat because they're going to kick off. You know, somebody says to me, squat, sling it, you know, not having it, fighting. You have a boss chair in most prisons now. When you go into prison, if you went into prison, sit on a chair. Looks like the old electric chair, yeah? And it gives an indication. So if you've got a phone, where is it? Up the old backside, it'll indicate, so I know you've got one. However, I can't take it off you. I can put you in a dry cell, which means if you go to the toilet and try and get rid of it, it'll go into a tank, so I know I've got your phone. But what most lads will do, they'll keep it up all day. Yeah? At night they'll take it out because chances are you're not getting searched. But if you've got anything plugged, then that's yours. It's not going anywhere. So I don't really know. I think it's just like I can't rub down a female prisoner, but a female prisoner can rub down a male. It's just that sort of, yeah. Yep.
How often do you check their prison cells?
How How often that is a good question, right? So searching used to be a big part of my job. Now, it's not getting done, I'll tell you quite definitely. If you're on the night shift, so Strangeways prison, 1,200 prisoners on nights, probably now they have maybe 5 prison officers and a few civilians, that's all. 4 times a night, all you're doing though is a head count, so you open the door and you have a look in, make sure 2 people's in that cell, or whatever. In the day now, I doubt very much people get checked at all. People who are at risk of suicide and self-harm, they open an ACT document, assessment, caring, custody and teamwork. That document don't keep people alive, but it'll have a frequency. So if you run an ACT document, you're at risk of harming yourself, I might have to check 5 times a day on you and put in verbal notes or whatever. But at the minute, it's pretty flat. Very little searching being done. Corruption's gone through the roof. Drug use has gone through the roof. Assaults are down because everyone's locked up. Because if you're in a family bathroom, like I said, and I lock you in, you can't come out and assault me, can you? However, any more? Yep.
So when you're going about diamond security, is there like specific qualities you look for in a prison?
Sorry, I couldn't see your mouth moving then. The railing was. Go on, say that again.
What's one of the saddest stories you've kind of come across from the prison?
Wow, there's lots of sad ones. It's very, very difficult. It's just a level of abuse people go through as kids. For me, in case you're wondering, or maybe you're not, I think we should be going into schools, with a road show, talking about eating disorders, looking after yourself, vaping, abuse, drugs, alcohol, nitrous oxide, everything that's going on. For me, preparing kids, you know, for when they leave school, I don't think we do that now. I think it's a dangerous world. The abuse thing, you know, if in my world, every one of you had a badge, yeah, eating disorder. So I knew you're sat at dinner, you've got a sandwich in the canteen down here that's mad busy, but you're not eating your sandwich because you've got anorexia, like your daughter, yeah? And I go and sit with you, I'm having my sandwich, you know, you can eat with me or something like that. Anxiety. You've got anxiety, you know, do you want to come sit next to me, boom, 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 that sort of thing. I'd make people aware of things like that, because I don't think they get talked about. Anybody else? Yes, love.
Do you think people are born bad, or do you think they turn out the way they are because of something or
I think a very small percentage of people, very small percentage. I do believe, you know, serial killer genes or something like that maybe. No, I think kids on the whole are products of their childhoods. You know, I've used the word hate and evil before, and people say they're strong words. You know, I've met some evil people, and I have hated people as well, but I've still done my job professionally. So, it's all about childhood, really, I think.
Have you ever had anyone in prison who's clearly been falsely accused?
Oh, quite definitely.
But they can't prove it?
Quite definitely. There's a lad now called Ray Gilbert. I am 100% sure he's innocent, that lad. I interviewed him for my channel. He got 17 years for a murder along with another lad. He served 36 years. In society today, and this is wrong, if I kill someone and bury him, your child, yeah, I'll get a tariff and at some point I'll get out of prison. If I get accused of killing your child and I go to prison and I won't admit it, they'll keep me in. Ray Gilbert, 17 years, did 36 years. You imagine doing 36 days in prison and being innocent. That lad, he's still fighting now, he's been out 6 years to clear his name. People get fitted up. Michael Stone, who's heard of Michael Stone? There's a lad now, serial killer, Levi Belfield, who was he's admitted to the authorities that he killed 2 people that Michael Stone's in prison for. The detail of that murder was so accurate that there's no way that he didn't do it. Yeah? Michael Stone is fighting to get out, but he's still in prison. So quite definitely there are people inside who have committed, or they might have been involved in a criminal world, but they haven't done what they're accused of. Anybody else? Yes?
What are your views on the death penalty?
Views on the death penalty. Right, life sentence. Yeah, you've heard of life sentence, somebody being a lifer. That doesn't mean you're in prison forever. If you are a lifer, you get a tally. That could be 18 months or 18 years. At that point, you'll be eligible for parole. But as a lifer, once you get out of prison, you're on what they call licence terms and conditions for the rest of your life. So if I'm a lifer, I can get out 10 years. If I break them, you can send me back to prison. Whole of life means you are staying in till you die. The death penalty, when people are banged to rights, yeah, I do believe in death penalty. It'll never come back. I don't believe in America like they have death row, put people for 20 years waiting to be executed, right? You know, in the days of the hangman, if you got found guilty, you're going to be hanged, literally, you were in prison, very short period of time, boom, and you're gone. It's a very difficult one. Very difficult. Anybody else? Yeah.
You said corruption is still a big issue. Have you ever witnessed it firsthand?
Corruption? I have. It's massive at the minute in the prison service. Everything's changed. When I worked there, prisoners were out a lot. We had the dynamic security. If a member of staff were corrupt, I'd have known. You can see it. Now, because people are locked up all day, you know, prison ministers and the newest guy in charge of the prison service said they're going to deal with things, but, you know, sending a prisoner through a portal like they have at airports, you need to send all the staff through it. Yeah? Because it's staff corruption that has gone through the roof. It is rife. I've known people, you know, I thought really good people, they've been caught taking mobile phones in and the like. Legal people, they've had barristers caught taking mobile phones into prisoners. It affects everybody. On the prisoner front, visits. At worst, you know, somebody taking drugs in, small baby in the nappy, that's happened before, that sort of thing. There'll always be a market in prison for drugs, you can make a lot of money. Some prisoners, I got approached lots, you know, they'll come to me and they'll keep going until somebody says yes. Thing is though, they might say to you, right, bring me a mobile phone and give you $1,000. Ooh, yeah. Take your phone in, bring me another phone, give him the phone. Where's my $1,000? You're not getting $1,000. What are you going to do? I had a young lady message me last year, prison officer, 22. She says, I'm taking drugs in for a prisoner, I fell in love, thought he loved me, he doesn't, what do? I told her to leave. Don't resign, yeah? Leave the job, don't go back, don't answer your phone, and that's what she did. She's moved on now. She genuinely believed someone loved her, they convinced her that. She was taking drugs in and she didn't know what to do. So it is a massive problem here. Anybody else? Yes, sir?
Why have I got that much money? Why would they end up taking phone things in there?
Say that again, please. I missed that.
If there's a barrister on that much money,
Yeah.
why would they end up taking the phone in?
The barrister, I think, just fell in love. Workplaces, you know, at work, other than your home life, that's probably the closest you're going to be with anyone. Workplaces everywhere, banks, engineering, people fall in love.
Is it because in some cases they might target them at home, not blackmail and stuff like that?
Right, that happens very rarely. Good point, that. There is prison officers, you know, where prisoners have had their details and threatened them, but that is very rare. I never got threatened outside. I saw a lot of prisons in Manchester where I lived in Little Alton all the time, yeah? Vast majority go out of the way. You're right, Miss Samworth, this is my kid, this is the missus. Some are embarrassed and they'll go the other way, and there's one or two You know, they're never going to talk to me or anybody else. But on the whole, vast majority of prisoners just got them in the jail, well behaved, didn't assault anyone, and same for the vast majority of staff as well, a lot of good people in there.
Sam, did you used to read case files, or did you prefer to take them at face value?
No, when I worked on wings, I didn't know what anyone was in for. Unless you're doing a parole thing or something, you wouldn't know. When I worked on the healthcare, small unit, dangerous people, I'd go and have a look. Because you had people who were very assaultative, known for carrying weapons and things like that. Very dangerous place, very small community. But on the whole, on wings in prison, you know, people could be afraid. You know, not too concerned about that. Just the thing were about the healthcare where I worked with a lot of nurses, civilian staff, a lot of lasses as well, and like I said, some of the people on there. Mental health again. It's not just adrenaline. People who are mentally unwell and don't take their medication, you know, we've had situations where 30 or 40 staff have tried to restrain someone and move them somewhere with great difficulty. So on the healthcare, you know. Anybody else? Yep, and then you.
Was your shift patterns like? Did you used to do like 8 hours or 12 hours?
No, right. If you ask my missus, somebody asked me before I come in here, do I regret? I don't regret anything I did. I did a lot of hours, stupid hours. I worked, I've still got my diaries. You get a diary every year. Very rarely had a day off, might have 2 days off a month. The most ever worked. I'm not advocating this is stupid, pure stupidity. 72 days without a day off in a stressful job. I worked that many hours. People will know when you get out in the big world. Couldn't afford childcare, so my missus at home. She was a prison widow. She'd be at home 14 hours on her own. Missed 7 years of my daughter growing up. Never saw me. I literally did not see my daughter only when she was asleep. Up at 5, I had a house at 6, back in at 10 at night. She's gone. Yeah. So if you join the job now, the job when I was in was 30 grand. It's now about 22. It started going up again because they can't get people. I earn 20 grand a year in overtime. A lot of prison officers going, the tax bracket used to be 40 grand, go well into that. Poverty trap. When they talk about the poverty trap in that job, you know, 30 grand a year used to pay me 1,800 a month, which just about paid the bills. You know, I could earn 3 grand a month easily. And there's not a lot of jobs where you get that overtime, so you adjust your lifestyle to 3 grand a month, and that means I'm working 60 hours a week. So it weren't that good. Who was it? Yeah. Assaulted, more so now, very much so. There's no dynamic security. I don't know anybody here. At one time, I'd know all of you guys, yeah? So if I'm having a row here, you know me quite well. You might well say, no, give Mr. Samworth an easy time or whatever. Dynamic security made it safe. Now, some very serious assaults, and like I said, at one bit, as a lass, you're not going to get assaulted. Now they are. And the assaults, although less, because people are locked up, are more serious. Me, got spat at a few times. Someone spat in my mouth. Ask any prison officer, yeah, rather get punched. Every officer will say to you, or being an officer, rather get punched than somebody spitting in your face. Like we said, the guy weaponising blood products, bladed weapons. I'll tell you about one lass I worked with, very good. When I was in the private sector, a lad from behind come up, put a towel around my neck, started choking me out. Yeah? Don't know anyone here has anyone tried to choke you out stupidly or done something like that. I'll tell you what, you panic. The moment you start going, if you watch your martial arts, UFC, as soon as somebody starts passing out, they tap him. It is frightening. That's why they tap. So a guy's choking me out. There's another guy punching me. There was a lass called Lisa. She was a lesbian. I'll tell you why I'm telling you that. She looked like a lesbian. Yeah. All the prisoners used to be a lesbian. They used to take the piss out of her. However, that lass, 21, maybe 7 stone wet through, 5 foot. Yeah, she'd give as good as she gets. Someone would take the piss out of her, she'd put them down. You know. Or miss, you think of whatever you want to put in there. Yeah, I'll be on your missus tonight, that sort of thing, quick and sharp. When this lad's choking me out, the other lad's punching him in the face, she couldn't get him off, so the other lad, she wrapped herself around his legs. Literally, yeah. Troops arrived, next day she's at work with me, covered, bruises, head to toe, you know, but she was there. She pressed an alarm bell, she did what she could. So, yeah, a lot of assaults, threatened with bladed weapons. It's not all the time, no. Most incidents are spontaneous, so somebody will have a row or something, or somebody's behind the door bubbling. You wind somebody up and go home, I go and unlock them, bang, get him in. That's all. Yep.
You told us to remind you
Said it.
Anton.
Anton. Yeah, Anton. He's the lad who was eating the Quran and the Bible. Like I said, before that lad got attacked, he got a young missus and a young child. And the other sad thing that I didn't tell you about Anton, his mum used to come and visit him on the healthcare. They have a visit centre in prison. But because he was unwell, she used to come on the healthcare and he used to talk to her. So you got a lad who's 21, his mum was 40, single mum, yeah. He couldn't talk to her. It was like a big kid, incredibly unwell, brain injury in prison. It destroyed that woman. There was nothing she could do, so incredibly sad again. Anybody else? Yep. Worst thing, one of them, it's impossible. You know, if it was to make a list, there's a lot. True story. I found a lad who had clotheslined himself, not hung himself. Got some bedding like that. Have you all seen the ski jumpers in the Olympics go off the big ramps? Yeah? So this lad, whether he was testing it or not, he's leant on a clothesline like that. Vagal nerve, I think, in your neck, you hit that, he's dead. So he's leant, been dead for a long time, got the arms behind him like a ski jumper, going off the ramp, jaw fully extended, stuff of nightmares. Can see him now. The smell. With PTSD, there's little talked about. I don't know what you call it, but there's a smell. That lad had a smell. So we found him dead, tried to resuscitate him. I did a 4-hour police interview. I went out to my car, I stank, stripped down to my boxers. Being prison officers, people were wolf whistling. However, it was the stink. Drove home in my Peugeot 406, drove in it for 3 months. You know the little magic trees that smell? Nice. Had about 6 of them in car. My missus has asthma, used to destroy her. After 3 months, couldn't stand the smell. When I got in my car, I could just smell it. I left my car at the side of the East Lancs motorway, walked home 2 miles. It was late at night, I was hungry, it was wet, and I didn't have a coat. Got in, told my car had broke down, had it towed away the next day. Couldn't get rid of the smell. Didn't have money for another car, borrowed some off her mother. That's probably one of the worst things I've ever seen. Bet you're glad you asked that now, aren't you? Any more? For any more? Anybody still want to be a prison officer? Good lass. Just you now. 2. There you go then. How are we doing? Fine? Yeah. Good. Any more questions? Have you got any questions?
Do you have Joey Barton?
Say that again.
Joey Barton?
Joey Barton. So Joey Barton is a footballer, in case you didn't know. Was he in the Premiership then? Was he playing for Newcastle then?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so he came in Strangeways, professional footballer. He was treated different, got special treatment. That weren't our governor. Outside influences. All his charges and misdemeanors were assault, weren't they, on the training ground and stuff. Within a couple of weeks, he had a gym orderly job, best job in the jail. Told you the gym at Manchester were fantastic, as good as any gym on the Owl. He got the gym orderly job, he could train, keep fit, he was pretty much eating what he wanted. Yeah, he got special treatment. But again, that weren't the prison, that were outside influences. So, celebrity.
Good. So, everyone happy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So before, make sure your mate's got a blanket and a cup of cocoa, yeah? Give him a nudge. Give him a nudge.
I wish I could sleep like that.
Right. So what we're going to do now, all right? Good dream? Still dreaming? You all right? It's Monday. It's Monday. It's Monday, it's 2:30, all right? Right. Listen. So, what we'll do now, there might be a few of you that want to ask something, but it's a bit like, oh, I don't want to do that. So, Sam's going to be here for a bit anyway. Anyone who's still got that interest in being a business officer, massive opportunity now to just have a bit of a one-to-one and pick his brains and ask him as much as you want, right? Okay? So for the rest of the year, listen a minute, for the rest of the year, yeah, when I say, and to give back to your lessons, or if you're my lesson, just take that extra half hour before you start your next one, okay? Before that, a brilliant opportunity you've had today. Some really, really good anecdotes, some good stories, good advice. So, if we could just have a round of applause for Sam, please. Round of applause for Mum for being the deepest sleeper ever.
Thanks for all the questions, guys, and it's been a pleasure. Take care of yourselves.
Come here. And if you want to ask anything, just come to the front. Go for it, okay?